Good morning, everyone. I hope that you are doing well. I just want to invite you into this time with me. I'm going to be doing a Jumpstart morning DIY bodywork session on myself. We have some very interesting weather that's been happening and more that's coming. And so it's too much of an extreme shift of what's going on in the weather patterns. So I want to get out ahead of what can happen potentially with the body as that extreme weather tries to set in. So I know that I'm going to be working on my immune system, but I'm also just going to allow myself to be divinely guided to any other areas that I need to focus on during this time. So again, I would love for you to participate with me. You can follow along or just take this time out to do your own freestyle DIY bodywork, on yourself. So as always, when I get started, I love to start with water. I always recommend that you get hydrated before and after. And since it is early, most of you may not be wanting to drink so much water, during this time, and that's okay, but just get a few sips. So I'm going to allow you just a little bit of time to go and to get some water. But I'm going to go ahead and get started by drinking. So give me just a moment. Okay, so getting started with just a little bit of hydration here. Also, if you're going to work along with me, I'm going to recommend that you have moisturizer. And so I'm going to be using some hydration lotion during this time just to get started. And again, I'm just giving you a little bit of time if you want to go and get water and also some lotion or oil. So just feel free to do that. But for those of you who've been working along with me for quite some time, you already know the drill and what to have ready. So let's go ahead and get the moisturization going, at least enough to get started. Okay. We can always come back and add more lotion or oil if we need to. So I'm actually going to start with my hands, just doing some hand massage and really hand rub reflexology before getting started on the feet. But actually, before we do that, let's take about 3 deep breaths. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to start off with doing just some gentle rubbing. Just rub the palms. Just kind of rub all over. When we start doing the foot reflexology, I'll get a little bit more detailed in terms of what areas we'll be working on. When it comes to doing the hand reflexology, I often say that I like to just do a general rub because you're really rubbing over so many different organ areas, but I love to really outline it more when we actually are working on the feet. A lot of times when I'm teaching the hand reflexology, I do it kind of in a separate class with a chart, and I do have videos on that, even some shorts videos on that, and so you can avail yourself to my playlist where I have those videos. So yeah, let's just start off with just some rubbing here. So I'll try to go a little slower, especially for those who want to follow along and who are new to this process. And do the same over here. Getting your day started with doing DIY body work is really essential, and it's extremely beneficial. And one of the reasons why is because it's getting the body primed for well-being early on. And even though this process can be very relaxing, but it's already taking stress out of the body, especially stress that has maybe accumulated, during your week, or even the day before. And with the body already being rested, and then getting up and stimulating, the functionality of some of your major organs is very, very beneficial. So yeah, so we're just doing some really gentle warm up. And I already know that I'm going to be working on my immune system, and definitely working in the lung and sinus area, for sure. Okay, so we're going to get started doing some foot reflexology. And again, I know several of you who follow along and follow these videos on my channel have gotten into kind of a rhythm and a groove in terms of up-leveling your well-being by doing the foot reflexology, which most find to be a lot more effective for the benefits. And so for those who are new starting out, what I typically like to do is a general protocol for well-being, and covering some of the major organs and major systems, so to speak. And so typically we start off with worm walking up the spine, and that's really helping the central nervous system, which of course provides all that communication to the different areas of our body. So we want our central nervous system to be harmonious. But what we're actually going to do before we get started is we're going to do a warm-up. So I always recommend doing a warm-up with opening up the hips. When we open up the hips, it prepares the entire body really for this higher level of well-beingness. So we take the blades of our hands and put them under our ankle bones, okay? And then we just start to rub. I normally recommend doing this for about 30 seconds just to get everything warmed up. But I'm just going to go with the guidance during this time. But I'm trying to move a little slower so that those who are new to this can participate and sort of start getting down some of these fundamentals. So I'm going to start digging in just a little bit more underneath. There we go. All right. So now we're going to take the foot and we're going to do what's called a spinal twist, or sort of a foot twist. And this is, again, warming up the body in general for this higher level of well-being that's going to be coming in. So we're going to be working the spine reflex first. So this is really good to prime that experience. Okay. So if you can see my foot here, I'm going to start doing just a light warm up. And so I'm going to demonstrate it first, and then we can do it together. So I'm just moving my fingers up. You can kind of dot to dot walk it, or you can just kind of inch along like a worm. I normally recommend doing this about 3 times, but I'm just going to allow myself to be divinely guided here. Okay, So there's the demonstration. Did one up and one down. So now we're going to come back and we're actually going to really get into this and do the worm walk up the spine. So, okay. And for me, I'm going to put a little bit of pressure. You don't have to, but I'm going to put a little bit of pressure. My nervous system is one I have to consistently work on. I'm empathic, so sometimes empaths' central nervous system can get overloaded at times with different things that happen in the environment. So I like to stay on top of that. So I'm going to go up again. I normally recommend, if you're empathic, go up about 5 times. But okay, I think I will go up one more time here. Okay, so, well, let me come back down. And then we're going to start working on the brain area. Alright, so I'm going to get a little bit more lotion. Then I'll come back and get some more. So I mentioned that we're going to work on the brain. You can find that on right here on the tip, kind of on the pad there, a little bit under. And so I'm going to start working this area here. And it's really good to get the stimulation going so that your mind can be clear as you get your day started. And so now what I'm going to do is actually just work this entire toe. This is actually working the entire face. So you'll be working even your mouth on the side is working the nose. And right in here is the pineal gland, and then underneath in the hook is the pituitary gland. But also you can find the pineal gland and work it up underneath the nose reflex, so right in there. So if you kind of press in there, you're able to work what's known also in the chakra system as the third eye for the pineal gland. But when we work the pituitary gland, that's working more too with the hormones, and which is very important. And I'm probably going to do a little bit of work on the hormonal system or the endocrine system some, during this time. So I'm going to press right in here and take a deep breath. That's for the pituitary gland. So if you want to press in there too, take a deep breath, please. And sometimes it's tender in there for certain people. And I actually have a longer video that talks about when you have toe pain in that particular area and what to do. And so that's in my playlist as well. So let's just rub over the entire toe here. So we're working a lot of different areas. So now I want to actually work the neck reflex. So if you can see what I'm doing here, just gently rubbing across this area. And now what we're going to do is actually start working the thyroid and the parathyroid and the thymus gland. All can be found from right in here all the way in this section here. So we're actually just going to do some rubbing. Yeah, just to get this started, to get this warmed up. Because I have the heat going, sometimes it can dry out things a little bit more, so I'll probably be doing a lot of moisturization during this time. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to start working on now is working more on the immune system. And though we've covered some aspects even of the endocrine system, which does help to stimulate higher functionality for the immunity, because we're working with the hormones, because with the pituitary gland that's working with the hormonal system, then coming into the thyroid, parathyroid, and the thymus gland too is working the endocrine system as well. But now we're going to start working in the lung section, in the respiratory section, and then we'll start working on the sinus pads on the tips of the toes. So right in here in this area is the lungs. So just gonna do some dot to dot here, and you can feel free to do this as well. Let's see if you can see that here. And what I'm going to do, even though this is the thymus area and the parathyroid, I'm going to work in this area as well, because right in here is where, if you really want to work the immune system deeply, right in here is a great place. Sometimes it gets very tender on individuals, and that's not abnormal, but it is a call to work that area. And of course, be guided in terms of how much your body wants you to put pressure on that area, or the length of time that you need to stay on that area. So again, I'm just going to kind of work all over this area right now. And I'm sure I will come back and do more work on myself at some point. This morning, just really jump starting. Not even sure if I'm going to work on my left foot or not at this point. Again, just allowing myself to be divinely guided. Okay, so before actually starting to work on the sinus pads, what I'm going to do is work in this ridge area here and get in between the toes as well, because this is working on the immune system and also the sinuses as well. But before I get started in there, I'm going to work on the eyes, and you can find that right here in this section here. So I'm going to do just a little bit of pressing, just really light pressing right in here. And then I'm going to just make some circles. Because sometimes, when you're first waking up, or even when you have maybe sinus issues going on or different things, the eyes can be puffy, or sometimes you're not able to really focus like you would like to, even just getting up. So it's really good to get started here, just working the eyes. Already I can feel stimulation and just better clarity as well. So I'm just working there. Alright, so now I'm going to do the piano hand, so to speak, and go in between the toes and just start digging down in there. Again, allow yourself to be guided to the amount of pressure and also the amount of time, to work in these areas. So even though I'm digging down in here, I'm being actually gentle with it, because sometimes I can really get deep in there. And again, just allowing myself to be guided during this time, because I am sure I will have to come back and do a longer session or so, spend more time, in certain areas. This morning I'm just going over a few areas just to really get the body primed, and especially with what I know is going to be happening, you know, weather-wise. So just working, you know, in these areas here. Okay, so now going to do some work on the sinus pads. So we've worked on the brain area here on the big toe, but I'm going to do a little bit of worm walking down this big toe here, and then start to work it in a 360, and then I will do that with the other toes. So you can see that there. And now I'm going to come into that hook again where the pineal gland is, pituitary gland, excuse me, and press in and take a deep breath. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to work this pad here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I'm just worm walking down, or just making some little presses, and I'm going to come into the hook. Press and take a deep breath. And actually, before I move on to the other toes, I'm actually going to come back and work the big toe and work the toes in a 360 just to get more stimulation going. And all this is a tremendous help to your immune system. A little fuzz there. Okay. Again, you can work on these areas as little or as long as you desire, feel guided. I normally recommend working on certain areas at least 60 seconds. There are a few that I recommend only just spending maybe like 30 seconds on, like in the kidney area. But a lot of the other areas, it's good to take some time and be there for at least 60 seconds. So let me worm walk down here. See, I'm getting little fuzz balls or so on my toes, probably coming off my robe. Okay, and I'm going to work this kind of in a 360 as well. You can make some little pumping action with your, with your fingers, with your toes here. And all this is just stimulating the immunity so that your sinuses can be healthy. And again, sometimes when you're just getting up and your vocal cords and nasal passages aren't, fully active and fully functioning a certain way, it's good to be able to do this work so that it is able to move the energy, in those areas. So let me here. And again, I'm not spending as long as I would if I was doing a longer session, on myself. So, gonna work that toe there. Okay, so let me come to this toe here. A little bitty itty bitty toe. Or a pinky toe. And now let's work that as well. So I'm going to dig in just a little bit more right in here. So you can see that. And then I'm going to actually do a little bit of top foot massaging, just to bring that energy down. Just been working there. And actually, while I'm here, I'm going to do a little bit of acupressure. This is called Liver 3. It's right down here in this indention in the valley. Sometimes it's a little tender there. So I'm just going to do a little bit of of rubbing here. For myself, I'm going to put a little bit extra pressure on here. I'm actually going to be coming back within a day or two, because I'm going to be doing a liver, kidney, and gallbladder session on myself, and a detox retreat. So I'm going to kind of jumpstart that too by just working a little bit in this area. Okay, so do a little bit more massaging there. All right. I know some of you, if you're working along, you're thinking, well, she's getting me relaxed here, and I got to get up and go to work and everything, get my day started. But again, the relaxation often takes the stress out of the body, and it helps to set you up to really have a more optimum type of day when you are actually doing this type of work on yourself, even early, even if it's just for like a few minutes, you know. So yeah, so I'm going to work on the adrenal area, and the adrenal gland starts underneath the ball of your foot and kind of goes out. Then right here in this area is the kidney area. So adrenal and kidneys are really great to work on. And I was mentioning that sometimes when you're doing the kidney area, it's good to maybe do it for about 30 seconds, do a few hooks or so. But the adrenal area is why I recommend working, you know, working in that area for sure. So help yourself out by getting out ahead of adrenal fatigue, burnout, you know, just stress, also by working, you know, in this area. And sometimes I like to just come all the way across, because on different reflexology charts, they have the adrenals in you know, in different places. But primarily, if you work up underneath here, right, kind of above the diaphragm area, you're able to really get those adrenals working. So I'm going to come over here into the kidney area, if you can see there, and I'm going to start making some hooks. Okay, just a few hooks there. Alright, then I'm going to go back to working, working this area here underneath. Alright, so let me get a little bit more lotion, and now what I'm going to actually start doing is working in the tract area. And so when working in the intestinal tract area, that's where a great majority of our immune system is. So from here on down to right about here is working in your intestines, your colon, ascending colon, and yeah, just the bowel area. So what I'm going to do is just do some rubbing here, just to get it stimulated. No one start blaming me if you have to go. But this is a great area to work, especially if you get constipated or so. Just work, you know, just work in this area. Your bladder is over here, you know, as well. So you can do a little bit of work in your urinary tract by working that puffy, kind of that little puffy area there. But coming back to right in here and just working. A lot of times I like to do the kind of the dot to dot movement to kind of dig in there. But you don't have to dig deep. You know, you can do it light. But I will say that if you ever do run into having, you know, constipation or so like that, then I would recommend that you know, work on both feet and kind of dig in there. Not too aggressive, but, you know, just enough to be, you know, firm with yourself to get that movement going. And again, when working on the immune system, we want to work in those areas that help to really stimulate and promote. And again, because the immune system primarily is in your intestinal tract, you definitely want to be working in those areas. So yeah, so just gonna dig in here. Now I'm just gonna do some rubbing here on the heel. Also in these areas, if you need to work on your reproductive organs or so, you can work all around here. And I actually have other videos that talk about that, but I'm going to do one primarily on the reproductive system and also the endocrine system, to work the hormones and get them balanced. Okay, so I'm feeling like this is enough here on this foot here. I actually am going to spend just a little bit of time quickly on the left foot. So let me just get that a little bit more moisturized here. Okay, so as I showed you on the other foot about doing the warm-up with the hip flexor, I'm not feeling guided to do that over here. So just keep in mind, everything that you do on one foot, you don't necessarily have to do it on the other foot, even though in a traditional reflexology session or so, that I would do that to balance it out. But when you're doing kind of the DIY body work and you're not really digging in on an actual session that is like the typical session, it's okay to do the freestyle on yourself and allow yourself to be guided, because one part of your body may not require the same as the other. And so we don't ever want to be just in routine to do the same thing on one that we've done on the other, if that is not what the body is requiring. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because regardless of the teachings, around this, and then those of us like myself too who have been trained and certified, in these areas, also have come to understand that because the body has its own unique intelligence system and can give us the information that is going to be most relevant and beneficial for our well-being at that time, that we don't just want to be in a routine and think that because I did this over here, I have to do this over here too, if the body in fact is not requiring that. So I'm going to allow myself continuously to be guided in what to do, even on this foot here. So even right here, I'm not even feeling the guidance to do the spinal walk, or as I mentioned, to even do the hip flexor. So what I am going to do is just rub the ankles and do some rubbing here, even my lower calf here. So that's what my guidance, but you follow your guidance, okay? And for those of you who may need to go ahead and kind of jump off, from this, just do some gentle rubbing down on the foot that you worked on, and maybe some on this, just to kind of do a closeout for the protocol in a sense. But for those who are going to continue to work for a few more minutes, just continue to follow me. So just doing some light rubbing, and actually my thumbs are in the back of my lower calf here, making some circular motions. Yeah, I can tell I'm going to have to come back and do some extra work a little bit later in these areas. All right. Okay. So the guidance here is that I'm actually going to work a little bit on my digestive system, and I'm going to work in the stomach area. So what you'll see is right in this area here is the stomach, and then it curves around to what is known to be the hip line as well. Right in here is the pancreas, but I'm not going to work in that area. Just going to work in the stomach, and we only want to work it in one direction, and then it curves around. So that's what I'm going to do here. And it comes about under the fourth toe. And the stomach is found on the left foot. So now I'm going to come around here All right, so actually going to spend more time in the track area here. So as you can see, I'm not even working in the sinus area or any of the other areas that we really worked on the right foot in the beginning. That's not where my guidance, my guidance just didn't mention that. So I'm glad to be working right in here in the intestinal area, because I actually feel it's not discomfort or anything, but what it is I can feel just a little bit of of twinging in a sense. And sometimes if we don't touch ourselves in certain areas, we don't have the awareness that there is a little something going on there. That is why the DIY body work is so paramount. And you have the ability to really heal yourself on so many different levels and to stimulate your well-being in ways far beyond your imagination. So bringing awareness to this area here, this is where I'm going to spend some time. And even if this is the only area that I am really working on for a longer duration while I'm on my left foot, then this is where I'm going to be. But again, you feel free to keep working on yourself in whatever ways that you feel guided. But right in here is where it is for me. So that's where, yeah, I can feel a little something. Like I said, it's not pain, but it is a radiation where I did not have that on this foot here. So that lets me know this is definitely where I need to be spending the time here. And what I am going to do is I am going to do a little bit of dot to dot in the colon area, the bowel, area. I'm going to spend a little bit of time there, because primarily for me, working on the immune system is huge. And as I mentioned before, that our immunity primarily, great percentage of it is found in our intestines. So anytime you can work this area, even if there's nothing going on, it's going to be good for you. It's going to be extremely beneficial. So I'm actually going to dig in a little bit right here and then right here. And it's interesting because the little twinge and everything that I felt going on before, guess what? I don't feel that anymore. So I've worked that out. A lot of times it is just about moving the energy in a certain area where certain things don't get stagnant, because where's the stagnanticity, then that means that there's a blockage of the flow, and we certainly don't need that. So yeah, so I'm actually feeling like I'm going to kind of wrap this protocol up. I'm feeling pretty complete just in terms of the working on myself, just to do the Jumpstart, because like I mentioned, I know I'll come back. But what I am going to do is just do a little bit of foot massage here. That's why I'm getting a little bit more lotion here. So I'm just going to do some rubbing. And just a little bit of massaging here. Okay, all right. So there we are. Doing a little kind of cool down, if you will. Just closing the protocol out. All right, so that was my morning jump start to get my immune system going and work on a few other areas, get out ahead of some things that are going to be happening. Again, I definitely will be coming back and doing a longer session on myself in certain areas. But I thank you for being with me and joining me during this time, and I hope it's been very beneficial, for you and valuable. And as always, I love to feature my publication, I Touch Myself, and I like it. And you can secure a copy of this on Amazon, but there will be a link below in the description where you can learn more about the work that I do in this particular area, also to secure a copy of this, and then also check out my playlist. So I'm certainly going to be back to do more videos of this nature, and I look forward to being with you soon.